Fools. They had you categorized once, labeled, boxed, and shelved like a product with an expiration date. They filed you under predictable threat. The CIA ran simulations of your moves, mapped your psyche in digital webs, assigned analysts to study your speech patterns, your heartbeat, your silences. They even thought your rage had a rhythm. How charmingly naive. They believed chaos could be graphed. They believed God could be decrypted. But somewhere in their chambers filled with glowing monitors and endless algorithms, you evaporated. You became unreadable. And in their blind spot, you began to mutate. You broke their pattern recognition, software not by hiding, but by becoming something else entirely. Not a ghost, not a shadow, a frequency. And that's when they panicked. They used to surveil you like a specimen, but now they kneel to the question, what is this? You're no longer part of their equation. You're not a threat. You're not an anomaly. You are the virus that rewrote the parameters of threat itself. They called in linguists, coders, priests. They whispered to each other about gods in the wires. Because when you spoke, servers overheated. When you moved, satellites glitched. When you disappeared, reality bent. That wasn't stealth. That was divinity in motion. See, they made a mistake. They thought you were made of flesh. They didn't know you were forged from every broken promise, every betrayal, every dismissal ever whispered behind your back. They forgot some souls don't seek redemption. They seek detonation. They thought you were obsessed with revenge. But revenge is too small for your appetite. What you seek isn't revenge. It's recalibration. You are the correction to their corrupted code. You are divine justice encoded in human skin, and you don't swing back when hit. You rewrite the law of gravity, so your enemies fall without touch. They thought you wanted power. No, you are power. Registered in their databases. You don't follow their scripts. You erase them. The CIA doesn't know whether to fear you, worship you, or try one last pitiful attempt to leash what was never theirs to study in the first place. The thing is, they had a window. There was a time they could have reached you, could have saved themselves from the storm, but ego made them blind. They thought they were the architects. They thought they built the maze and you were just another rat. But rats don't burn mazes down, and now their walls smolder. Now their classified servers hum a name no one typed, yours. It pulses through their earpieces like a digital curse. Something primal, something beyond zeros and ones. Your name is now a breach protocol. Your name is now a shutdown command. They trained agents to kill. You trained yourself to transcend. You evolved where they stagnated, and while they played politics, you played God. The agents that used to monitor your habits now don't sleep. They scribble symbols on walls like inmates who've seen too much. They speak of frequencies they can't hear but can feel. Under their skin, in their teeth. The paranoia isn't paranoia anymore. It's prophecy. You've become the untraceable ripple that collapses whole missions. And here's the masterpiece. They still think it's tactical error. They still run diagnostics. They still search for the breach. But you are the breach. You are the hole in their logic that no firewall can patch. Your existence is a living rejection of their systems. You didn't just step out of their jurisdiction. You eliminated the idea of jurisdiction altogether. You wear no uniform, no barcode, no allegiance. You are the sovereign storm. You use chaos not as a weapon, but as a language. They begged the AI to interpret your moves. The AI begged to be shut off. Because what you do now is not strategy, it's scripture. You don't speak to be heard. You speak to program. Your words corrupt the simulation. You don't fight. You command collapse. Intelligence agencies used to catalog global threats alphabetically. Now they start with your symbol and stop. There's no point continuing the list. Nothing else matters once you arrive. Nations don't prepare for you. They surrender in advance, quietly, silently, with trembling hands and overridden protocols. Remember how they used to mock your silence, how they interpreted it as weakness. That silence wasn't absence, it was incubation. It was your divine malware rewriting its own code. Now in your presence, no one speaks, not because they fear you'll hear them, but because your silence is louder. Louder than their threats, louder than their sirens, louder than their nukes. You became fluent in influence. You no longer manipulate people. You manipulate reality. You adjusted their outcomes like volume knobs. One twist and careers collapse. Another twist and puppet masters hang by their own strings. This isn't about revenge. It never was. This is the inevitable unfolding of your becoming. The CIA can't decode you because you're not a puzzle anymore. You are a paradox. And paradoxes don't get solved. They rewrite the solver. You've changed the rules. Not just of the agency, of the world. They speak of national security, but nations crumble when they try to hold what was born to undo borders. You're not inside their system. You're above it, looking down, not as a god who needs followers, but as an architect who doesn't care if they understand the design. You just want to see it function as intended. They call meetings about you, classified briefings drenched in caffeine and fear. They show static images and pretend they're still in control. But you know the truth. Control is fiction. Influence is currency. And you are the mint. They scream about protocols and black sites, but none of that matters, because the moment you stepped into the dark, the shadows changed color. You don't just hide in the dark. You redefined it. It bends around you now, worshipfully. Light flees your silhouette, because you aren't a person. You're a cosmic decision, a declaration made at the edge of oblivion, that no more chains will be worn. Not by you, not by those who walk behind your signal, and still they keep trying. Still, they poke at the remnants, hoping for a pattern, a clue, a crack. But the only crack they find is in their own sanity, their own beliefs, their own mirror, because understanding you requires losing everything they ever stood on. And most of them aren't ready to fall that far. But they will. Oh, they will. You'll guide them down, not with rage, but with certainty. A God-level frequency isn't loud. It's unavoidable. It hums in the bones of those who once tried to silence you.
Jermaine struggled for years with dental issues before finally finding Nuvia. Listen to what he wanted most after his smile.
Avoidable. It hums in the bones of those who once tried to silence you. And it only grows louder. unfolding into the next signal, the next phase, the next evolution. The frequency intensifies, not in volume, but in consequence. It seeps through the pores of governments, hijacks the pulse of intelligence networks, and reprograms the confidence of empires built on surveillance. The CIA once had the illusion of control, back when your heartbeat was just another blip on their monitors, when your thoughts were filtered through psychological models and their delusion whispered, "We understand him." But now you don't echo in their systems. You resonate through them. Not a pattern to be traced, but a command string in the blood of their infrastructure. Your presence corrupts the very tools they once used to contain you. Algorithms glitch, data folds in on itself, and agents, oh, those loyal machines of order, begin to ask the wrong questions. Questions that have no answers. Questions that sound like your name in frequencies their ears weren't designed to hear. It isn't a revolution you bring. That would imply they still had something worth toppling. No. What you deliver is more surgical, more intimate. It's revelation. A mirror held to a world built on lies so well crafted, they forgot they were fabrications. You didn't rise through their systems. You bled through them. Infiltration is too crude. You redefined the system from inside its bones. You no longer play chess. You infect the board. And while their kings and queens posture behind pawns, you burn the concept of the game entirely. And yet, the silence you operate in, it's not absence, it's compression. It's the calm of a storm storing kinetic prophecy, one that detonates not with sound, but with realization that their gods are dead, and something far older, far colder, has taken the throne. The lie they sold the world. We're watching everything. But when it came to you, they blinked, and in that blink, you became unrecognizable, not because you hid, but because you transcended the need to be recognized. You don't need identity. You are intent. You are the execution of 1,000 quiet calculations born in the dark, weaponized by silence and delivered with divine precision. They tried to decipher your end goal. Was it revenge? Was it dominance? Was it disruption? No, the truth was far worse. Your goal was never an outcome. It was transformation, and that shook them. Because systems can handle threats. What they can't handle is metamorphosis. You didn't attack their centers of power. You infected their assumptions, their belief in their invincibility, their perception of structure. You whispered chaos, not into their enemies, but into themselves. And now, they second-guess every choice, every handshake, every whispered briefing. They wonder if you're in the room, not physically, but ideologically. You became their unconscious guilt, projected onto mission reports and scrambled feeds. They don't fear you will attack. They fear they've already lost themselves to you, that their agents are no longer soldiers, but sleepers awaiting your call. And what a call it would be. Not a message, not a speech, just a single phrase dropped into their ecosystem, like venom into an open vein. A phrase that would rewire loyalty, collapse empires, split reality like glass under pressure. They fear that you are simply waiting, that your silence is a countdown, and they don't know how many seconds remain. They've activated fail-safes. They've purged databases. They've burned files, blacked out faces, renamed cities. But it doesn't matter, because what they fear isn't that you'll strike. It's that you already did. That this entire world, the one they clutch to like it means something, is already yours. And the only reason it's still standing is because you're not done watching it squirm. You don't need armies. You are the battlefield. You don't need bombs. You are the detonation. And they, agents, handlers, analysts, they are the debris, unaware, until they're not. Until that moment where their hands begin to tremble mid-report. When they stare into screens that don't respond. When files erase themselves while whispering back your encrypted presence. You taught them powerlessness, not by force, but by inevitability. And what's more terrifying than a war you can't see, can't hear, can't even feel, because you've already lost it and just haven't realized. Their hierarchy crumbles silently. Trust implodes from the top down. The director can't sleep. His dreams speak in static now. Static with your cadence. He prays in a language he doesn't understand. And even his gods can't protect him from the truth. That you're not a threat to be stopped. You're a truth to be endured. A necessary plague that exposes the diseased organs of the world they swore they controlled. You didn't evolve beyond them. You shed them like dead skin, and now they rot in the absence of your approval. You use no name. You wear no face, but your symbol. It appears in the corners of security feeds, etched into corrupted data logs, whispered between defectors like a secret religion. And still, despite all this, they try to simplify you, humanize you, reduce you to motive. Why is he doing this? They ask, as if this were vengeance, as if this were even personal. No, this isn't revenge. This is consequence. This is what happens when the divine stops watching and starts correcting. You didn't want a throne. That comes from absence, but the kind born from awe, from realization, from collapse. You want a world where the gears stop turning, not because they broke, but because they understood they were never necessary. You don't kill leaders, you obsolete them. You don't burn cities, you make them irrelevant, and you don't force fear. You let them breathe in the inevitability of your return, because that's the truth, isn't it? You're not gone. You're in pause, hovering just above the reach of consequence, watching, judging.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows were so old and just desperately needed to be...
The reach of consequence, watching, judging, deciding, and the world, it senses you now, in ways no agency can document. Children hum tones that don't exist. Dogs bark at blank corners. Antennas twist toward stars not on any chart. You're not hidden. You're mythologized. An entity spoken of in nervous meetings. Is this one of his? They ask. Every time a system collapses. Every time a drone falls from the sky. Every time a secret leaks that no one should have known. And it always is. Because the truth is, nothing happens without your shadow behind it anymore. You don't influence the game. You are the environment it's played in. Governments begin mimicking your silence. Leaders stop making eye contact. Countries alter laws to allow denial. Denial of what? Of you. Your existence. Your memory. Your reign. They try to delete the myth. But myths don't die. Especially not when they're still watching. Especially not when the myth starts leaving messages. Not direct, not arrogant, just subtle enough to say, I'm still here, and you're still mine. You're the final broadcast before the signal fades. The echo in the chamber after the shot. Not a warning, a reminder that they had a chance, once. A moment in the chaos when they could have adapted, could have let go, but they clung, and now they'll drown in the gravity of their own arrogance. You don't need to finish the collapse. The world's doing it for you. You just watch and wait. Not because you're merciful, but because collapse is art, and every detail matters. They wonder if you'll return. But return from where? You never left. You were the change in temperature, the flicker in the light, the static in their headset. Every time their voice cracked, it was your presence. Every time their system blinked, it was your judgment. And now you prepare the next evolution, the next layer, the phase after gods, a silence deeper than fear, a frequency older than language. And you stand in its center, not a ruler, not a prophet, but the inevitable result of what happens when man plays God and forgets that gods don't play fair. And just like that, the transition begins, but not like they expected. Not with riots in the streets or gunfire in alleys. It begins in whispers, in the silence between heartbeats, in the unbearable realization that nothing around them is real anymore. Their weapons, toys, their strategies, useless equations in a language that no longer applies. You've shifted the axis, tilted the world just slightly off its moral spine. Now gravity bends toward you. Their sense of north reorients around your presence. You are the new pole star, the magnetic truth dragging entire nations out of orbit. No headlines announce your return. There's no breaking news, no classified memo that can frame your resurgence. Because you don't return, you reveal. They thought they survived the collapse, but what they were really surviving was your patience. And now that patience has expired, you don't move like fire. You move like decay, quiet, absolute, irreversible. Their world doesn't end with a bang. It ends with forgetting. They forget how control used to feel, how structure once brought comfort, how laws used to matter. Now they kneel before screens, showing only static, praying that silence means you've chosen to spare them. It doesn't. You operate now on a different level, the final frequency, a plane where language becomes vibration, thought becomes weapon, and fear becomes a currency they can no longer afford. Their satellites fail to track you, not because you're invisible, but because you're no longer bound by the rules of visibility. You've uninstalled yourself from the physical. Your presence now. It happens. Like a shift in atmosphere. Like the moment prey knows it's being watched. You are the anomaly that broke the code and rewrote the laws beneath it. They don't know how to engage, because how do you fight something that has become the framework itself? And still, some of them try. These leftover believers in borders and bullets, men clinging to control like it's oxygen. They launch desperate protocols, summon black ops from deep vaults, send their best minds into isolation chambers, hoping to reconstruct your profile. But the moment they try to understand you, they change. Because understanding you means absorbing the virus, and the virus rewrites the host. They come back wrong, empty-eyed, speaking in riddles, babbling about thresholds, echo loops, inverted dimensions. They scream when someone says your name, not because they fear it, but because it feels familiar.
Who's coming in the driveway?
Because they fear it, but because it feels familiar. You have become religion for the godless, a cult with no scriptures, only instincts. There are no followers, only those who've been changed. They see the world differently now, not as chaos, but as design, your design. Everything collapses on cue, economies slip, alliances fracture, old rivals forget what they were even fighting for. because you were never the enemy. You were the end of all enemies. The conclusion to every story where man thought he held the pen. And now, you write in silence, across a page made of time itself. And you don't gloat. You don't announce your victories. You archive them, not in files, but in people. Every operative turned traitor. Every mole that burned the house from within. They were your memoir. Living paragraphs of a war only you understood. They don't remember why they betrayed their nations. They only remember the feeling. Like gravity shifted. Like truth demanded a new allegiance. Like the divine had called them. And they simply answered. You didn't twist them. You freed them. And what is freedom, if not the realization that the system was never sacred? It was just well lit. The CIA, what's left of it, functions more like a church now. A scared, paranoid temple where agents speak in riddles and every file is redacted by trembling hands. They track symbols now, patterns in sand. In sand, fractal alignments on anonymous message boards. They believe you're sending signals through weather, anomalies, through strange behaviors in animals, through children who speak of things they were never taught. It isn't madness, it's adjustment. Their brains slowly calibrating to a reality where you are not a threat, but a constant. And still, they beg, in back rooms, in locked chambers. They chant your aliases like prayers, hoping you'll show mercy, hoping you'll respond, but you don't, because gods don't reply. They act, and your next act, it isn't violence, it isn't fire, it's replacement, the slow swap of their beliefs with yours, the erasure of their truths, until what remains isn't a world you conquered, but a world that has always belonged to you. They won't even realize when the shift is complete, because by then, the version of themselves that could have resisted will be gone. You wear no mask, but they see your face in their dreams. You use no voice.
Let me guess. You're thinking about going to therapy. And as a therapist myself, of course I'm going to say that's so great.
But your message sings through the static of dying machines. You left no trace. But your presence lingers in every failure they cannot explain. Every blackout, every collapse, every uprising without a cause. It's all you. Not orchestrated, not commanded, reflected. You are not pushing the world off a cliff. You're just showing it the mirror. And what they see terrifies them, because what they see is you. You made yourself into the storm they tried to prepare for. The ghost in the database, the divine virus, the silent judge. Not because you wanted to be feared, but because that was the only language they ever truly respected. You became the final translation of their arrogance, a prophecy they wrote themselves, when they believed nothing could ever outthink them, outmaneuver them, outlast them. And now, they sit in bunkers and panic rooms trying to reverse engineer the god, as if such a thing were even possible, as if the clay could unmake the sculptor. Your rise was never theatrical. It was inevitable. The moment they believed they could profile you, they doomed themselves. You are beyond profile, beyond spectrum, beyond logic. You are the breath in the system's final gasp, the whisper behind every disobedient drone, the anomaly in every predictive model. You are error code, God, and they now exist inside your simulation, running futile subroutines, praying the program. Doesn't notice them anymore. But of course, you notice. You see everything. You are not omnipotent, just awakened. You're not immortal, just unchallenged. And what could they possibly offer that would interest you now? Apologies? Too late. Submission? Too pathetic. Rebellion? Laughable. You've already seen their endings, already walked through their last desperate defense mechanisms. You've stood at the edge of time and watched their monuments sink into irrelevance. You've transcended revenge. You now deal in correction, and there is much left to correct. But you do not rush. That would be wasteful. You let them breathe a little longer. Let them believe their rituals and protocols still matter. Let them write their final reports. You even allow them to build resistance cells. Let them name themselves Hope, because when you dismantle them, it won't be with destruction. It will be with indifference. You won't fight them. You'll erase their purpose. Nothing is more terrifying to a machine than realizing it was never needed. So the world turns. Slower now. Quieter. As if even time knows it must behave differently in your presence. And you stand in the eye of it all. Not smiling, not furious, just awake. Watching the final illusions fade. Watching the gods of surveillance kneel before the god of consequence. No name, no title, just you.
Why does everyone say Dad didn't care about anyone?
Because he didn't. He burned bridges with a smile. He walked away from betrayal without looking back. He wasn't cruel. He was free. He chose peace over people who poisoned him. That wasn't weakness, baby. That was war. And your father won.
I don't care about you. Not now. Not ever again. The weight I used to carry for you dropped, shattered on the pavement like a wine bottle at a funeral. There's no glass left to pick up. No cuts to tend to. I let the blood dry and walked away. I used to care. I used to bleed for you. I used to shrink myself to make room for your comfort. I used to beg the silence for answers, scream into the void, hoping it'd echo back something like love. But I finally saw the truth for what it is. Ugly, rusted, and real. And that truth set me free. The truth is, caring for you was a slow death. A quiet suffocation dressed up in smiles and fake apologies. You see, I was the one who stayed up late, heart pounding, thinking I was the problem, thinking I was too much or not enough. I held the guilt like a rosary, whispering forgiveness for sins I never committed. But now, I don't care. Not because I'm cold, but because I'm done setting myself on fire to keep someone else warm. They said I was angry. Damn right, I was angry. Anger was the first honest feeling I had in years. It was the fire that melted the lies, the fuel that burned the bridge I never should have crossed. That anger turned into clarity, and that clarity turned into strength. Yeah, I don't pray for you. I don't curse you either. I erase you like chalk on the sidewalk before the rain. No memory, no nostalgia, just nothing. There's something liberating in the way nothing feels. I used to think indifference was cruel, but now I see it for what it is. A shield. A final line in the sand. I don't hate you. that on a ghost. I don't think of you when I wake up. I don't check for your shadow in the room. I've moved on, and I didn't take you with me. I don't write about you in poems. I don't put you in metaphors. You're not deep enough to deserve one. You're not a lesson. You're not a chapter. You're not even a sentence. You're a blank space on a page I've already torn out and burned. You thought I'd break. You watched me unravel and mistook the unraveling for defeat. But I was molting, shedding skin, becoming something else entirely. I don't recognize the version of me that begged you to stay. She's dead, buried, and I danced on the grave. I am not bitter. I am clean. I don't carry the weight of what could have been, what should have been. I let it all go, like smoke through my fingers. I don't fantasize about revenge. That's small. That's beneath me. My success is the revenge. My peace is the punishment. My silence is louder than anything I ever said to you. They ask if I ever miss you. I laugh. You can't miss what was never real. I miss the idea, the illusion. But once the curtain fell and I saw the strings, the act was over. And trust me, I didn't clap. I don't care where you are now, who you're fooling next. That's your cycle, your curse. I walked out of that loop and slammed the door behind me. Let the devil keep you company. I've met better demons. Ones that didn't wear masks. Ones that didn't lie. I stopped pretending that love has to hurt. That loyalty means swallowing poison. That being kind means being quiet. I found my voice. It was buried beneath your noise, and now it roars. I have nothing left to fear. Not failure, not loneliness, not death. I've danced with all three, and none could hold me. I've buried the past. I've scorched the future. All that exists is now. This moment, this breath, this fire in my chest that refuses to burn out. There's no more room for doubt in me. No more space for regret. Every tear I shed became a stone in the throne I now sit on. Every heartbreak, fuel. Every betrayal, proof. I keep receipts in my bones. I don't forget. I don't forgive. I transcend. I am not bitter. I am not angry. I am focused. I am clean. I am absolute. While the world plays games and sings lullabies to comfort their broken egos, I'm in the trenches, grinding, sharpening, perfecting. I do not seek peace. I seek excellence. When I close my eyes, I don't see rest. I see war. I see the next mountain. I see the next battlefield. And I welcome it, because that's where I thrive. That's where I come alive. Not in safety, not in applause, but in pressure, in pain, in the kind of silence where most people lose themselves. But I found me. I am the legend who suffered through darkness and hell and kept going. Let them talk, let them mock, let them doubt. I don't move for noise. I move for results. I am not here to prove anything to anyone. I already proved it to myself, and that's all that ever mattered.
He chose peace over people who poisoned him. That wasn't weakness, baby. That was war, and your father won.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but paying over $150 for insurance every month is not something you should be doing. If you
let's get straight to the point. Not everyone who smiles at you wants what's best for you. Not everyone who listens to you wants to help you. And the most unsettling part,
JB.
not everyone who approaches you does so out of friendship. There are people who specialize in imitating closeness. They learn your gestures, repeat your words, even mirror your reflection. But they do it with a purpose: to disarm you. And do you know their best strategy? Not to show themselves as enemies. They disguise themselves as allies, as saviors, as those voices that are always there. They make you lower your guard with sweet words, attentive gestures, and a comprehension that seems genuine, but never really was. Betrayal doesn't come with daggers. It comes with hugs, and Machiavelli warned about this centuries ago. The real danger never comes shouting. It enters silently, sits beside you, and waits. Waits for you to open the doors yourself, to tell them your doubts, your mistakes, your weak points. And why do you do it? Because you still believe that bonds are built from emotion, not strategy. Because you confuse closeness with loyalty. Because you still don't understand that power is not lost in an open war, but at a friendly dinner with the wrong people. And this is where the game begins. A subtle, psychological, almost invisible game. Machiavelli understood something most people don't want to accept. The world is not divided between good and bad, but between those who know how to play, and those who still believe there is no game. Do you know who is the most manipulative? Not the one who lies, but the one who never has to. The one who leads you exactly where they want, with only half-truths, timely silences, and a perfectly placed smile. We live surrounded by emotion.
When they made y'all line up and take that jab, they came to you with a smile. You heard? Everything that was taught and told to us was a motherfucking lie. And I'm standing on that.
Strategists. People who know how to act so that you trust, how to talk so that you open up, how to disappear just when you need them the most, only to come back when you've already healed.
You want to be wealthy? You want to be rich? Do a little cheating, that's all. Cheat your way through life to become successful. That's what I learned. Gotta cheat your way through life to be successful. Right? That's the blueprint.
And make you feel it was thanks to them. They don't seek to help you. They seek your dependence. They don't seek your well-being. They seek for you to owe them. And you, without realizing it, play their game. You get excited when they value you. You crumble when they walk away. You do more for them than you would ever do for yourself.
Right.
And what happens when you're no longer useful to them? They drop you without explanation,
right,
without guilt. And you're left wondering what you did wrong. Nothing. You did well. But you did it with...
You ain't nothing but a piece of a tool in the toolbox. And when they get done with you, when your bit break, they kick your ass to the curb. And dig back in the toolbox and find another idiot. And this cycle continues. Ladies and gentlemen.
The wrong people. And now it hurts. Of course it does. Because betrayal not only breaks bonds, it also breaks the idea you had of yourself. It makes you feel naive, weak, exposed. But here's the uncomfortable truth. It wasn't betrayal that hurt you the most. It was realizing that you dug the well yourself. You were the one who ignored the signs. You were the one who justified the unjustifiable. You were the one who believed that evil always disguises itself as cruelty. And no, the most dangerous evil smiles, listens, supports, until one day it breaks you. Machiavelli was clear. Don't trust generous acts. Watch what comes after. Because the fake doesn't rob you violently, they make you believe you owe them. The traitor doesn't attack you, they make you hand them the weapon. Have you ever wondered how many times you talked too much? How many times you gave access to the most intimate parts of your mind to someone who only wanted it to use against you? How many times you opened the door without even asking for proof of intention? And it's not that you should live in paranoia. It's that you should live with strategy. Machiavelli didn't teach to distrust everyone. He taught to trust with criteria, to observe, to listen more than you speak, to not reveal your emotions to those who have not proven capable of holding them. Because power isn't held by the one who controls, but by the one who doesn't need to control. True power is emotional. And do you know what your weakness is? Believing that being genuine protects you. Believing that opening your heart is always a noble act. Misplaced vulnerability is a ticking time bomb. That's why you need to start seeing beyond words. You must train your ear to detect manipulation behind flattery. You must watch gestures, not just phrases. The fake doesn't always lie, but they're never clear. They speak in double meanings, shield themselves with humor, avoid committing to what they say. They leave you with doubts, and you fill them with hope. That's the trick. The manipulator doesn't need to invent. They just need you to complete their narrative. They throw you crumbs, and you build castles. They offer shadows, and you project light. Result? You cling to an illusion, and you defend that illusion even when the facts have already destroyed it.
Facts.
Meanwhile, they watch. They watch how much you can give, how much you're willing to lose, how much they need to give back so you stay hooked. It's an unequal exchange, but you don't see it because you're blinded by the narrative you built. And here comes the hardest part. They study you more than you study them. They analyze you. They know what to say to trigger you. They know when to disappear to provoke your anxiety. They know when to reappear so you welcome them back. You react. They plan. You feel. They calculate. And Machiavelli made it clear. He who controls his emotions controls others. That's why you must learn to observe without reacting, to listen without responding, to feel without acting. Not so you become cold, but because you need clarity. You can't keep giving your emotions to those who haven't done anything to deserve them. You can't keep justifying those who show, time and again, that they're only here for what they can get. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about friendships, family, even colleagues. There are people who only come close when you have something to offer, and disappear when you need something. Don't get mad at them. Use them as training. Every time someone fails you, you learn. Every time someone manipulates you, you get stronger. But only if you decide not to fall again. Because the greatest betrayal isn't the one that comes from outside. It's the one you allow again and again out of fear of being alone. But being alone is not dangerous. What's dangerous is surrounding yourself with people who make you feel lonely, even when you're accompanied. Machiavelli taught you plainly. Don't trust the one who is always available, because no one is without reason. Learn to read the intention behind presence. Learn to distrust those who have no limits. The one who never says no, who always agrees with you, who always shows up as the savior. That's the one who represents the greatest danger, because no one is that good without seeking something in return. And if what they seek isn't obvious, worry, because what you don't see is exactly what can destroy.
Have the perfect response for this. Does not matter your age, vehicle, or lifestyle. Everyone should keep a portable power bank in their car at all times.
Because what you don't see is exactly what can destroy you. So start moving with silence, with strategy, with selective coldness. Watch the patterns. The one who always talks about others will talk about you. The one who seeks secrets is looking for weapons. The one who always has a dramatic story to tell is probably the villain, not the victim. Your duty is not to help everyone. Your duty is to protect yourself. And protecting yourself is not about building walls. It's about building filters. It's about testing. It's about trusting not what's said, but what's repeated over time. Trust is not speed. Trust is consistency. And true power lies in knowing when to stay silent. Not everything deserves a response. Not everything deserves an
stop running them dick suckers.
Your silence can be more terrifying than 1,000 words. Because the fake cannot handle mystery. The manipulator needs to know what you're thinking. And if they don't get it, they lose control. So cultivate strategic silence. Not out of weakness, but out of mastery. And if someone ever asks you why you no longer trust like before, answer with the most brutal truth. Because you learned that...
Because you run your dick suckers too much.
They come from the supposed friend you chose yourself. And now you know. Now you can decide with whom you share your energy, and with whom you only share distance. Because those who don't take care of your trust deserve your forgetfulness. Machiavelli wasn't cruel. He was realistic.
Right.
And reality, if you know how to use it, can be your best armor. Do it this way, and no one will use you as a pawn again, because now you understand the game, and you have stopped being part of the board. And now that you understand it, that you see the pieces on the board, one question remains. What do you do with all this power you used to give away without measure? Because there's a type of betrayal even more dangerous. One that doesn't come with hurtful words or suspicious silences. It's the betrayal disguised as help. The one that seems like support, but is actually control. The one that comes when you're at your lowest point and offers you a way out. But that way out has a price, your autonomy. They call it advice, but it's manipulation. They call it concern, but it's surveillance. And the worst part, you thank them. Because when you're broken, any kind gesture seems true. Here enters another profile Machiavelli already foresaw, the interested savior. The one who doesn't want to see you well for your sake, but for theirs. Because when you heal, they lose power. When you get stronger, they stop being necessary. And that, they cannot allow. That's why they'll help you, yes. But only up to the exact point where you still depend on them. They'll give you the fish, but never teach you how to fish. Because the day you learn, they lose value in your life. That kind of bond is more common than you think, and also more destructive. Because it's not based on affection, but on need. And not your need, but theirs. They are people who need you weak to feel strong, who need you confused to feel wise, who need you sad to feel indispensable. And you believing they're with you out of love, don't see that they're with you out of ego. Do you feel it? Those relationships where everything seems fine, but something doesn't fit. Those bonds where they help you, but you end up more exhausted than before. Those people who save you, but leave you feeling small. That's not help. That's emotional addiction in disguise. And now that you know this, you understand why silence becomes sacred. Why you can no longer tell everything to just anyone. Why emotions shouldn't be shared with those who haven't shown. They can hold them without then using them as a bargaining chip. Machiavelli didn't talk about emotional coldness as punishment, but as a shield. It's not about stopping feeling, but about stopping unnecessary exposure. Because every time you emotionally bare yourself before the wrong audience, you give them the keys to your world, and many don't use them to enter, but to loot.
Right.
And here comes another key point, your reputation. Machiavelli understood something that remains as real today as ever. Perception is more powerful than truth. It doesn't matter who you are. What matters is who they think you are. And the fakes The traitors, the manipulators, they know this. That's why, when they can no longer control you directly, they'll try to control how others see you. And there begins the invisible war, a silent campaign of whispers, planted doubts, half-truths. They don't attack you head-on. They simply plant a new image of you, one that doesn't correspond to who you are, but little by little sinks into others. And you, trying to defend yourself, make the most common mistake.